Hi everyone, this is Elizabeth from craftsbyhappystamper.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I'm sharing with you this fun and bright birthday card that I created as my design team card for the Can You Case It color challenge this week. It's any bright yellow and white, and it can be, I meant to say blue, yellow, and white, and it could be as cheerful or as somber as you wish, but I decided to go with a cheerful birthday card and use a set that I don't use that often called Age Awareness, which I think is really cute and funny. So I started off with a piece of thick whisper white cardstock and cut it at 4 1/4 by 11 and scored it at 5 1/2 inches. And now I'm cutting some tempting turquoise background designer series paper at 2 inches by 5 1/2 inches. And then I'm going to mat it with some tempting turquoise cardstock, and it's going to be 2 1/4 inch by 5 1/2 inches, so that there's a border on the left and right side of it, but not at the top and bottom, because it's going to be the full length of the card. So now I'm just cutting down some Daffodil Delight cardstock so that it will fit into my big shot, and I will do the same with the this Daffodil Delight Background Designer Series paper. I'm going to be using the flower side of this paper. So for this card, I'm using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth from smallest or the fourth largest, whichever you want to call it, circle for framelit, and the small butterfly from the Bold Butterflies fits right in the center. And I'm going to use my big shot to cut those out, and I cut the butterfly out of the center of this solid piece of cardstock. I'm going to emboss the solid piece of cardstock with a decorative dots embossing folder, and the card base, I'm going to emboss the front with the large polka dot embossing folder, which is probably one of my favorite embossing folders that Stampin' Up! Offers. I love those polka dots. And if you haven't noticed, I've been kind of on a circles kick lately with a lot of my cards, doing lots of circle-based designs. So now I'm just taking a scrap piece of cardstock and I'm stamping Age Awareness Day, which is my sentiment that's going on the front of the card, in the center of a piece of scrap paper. And that's because I don't exactly know the length that I want to make it at this point. So that's why I stamped it in the center. But now I am getting the balloon out, which is a balloon that says HB, which stands for Happy Birthday, that I'm going to stamp on the inside and the inside sentiment so that I can stamp on the inside of the card. And you can see that I, just like many of you, make mistakes when I stamp, and when I stamp the inside sentiment, I actually mess it up. So I didn't put foam underneath it, which I usually do with these clear stamps, and you can see I didn't ink it well or press hard enough for the center of the stamp. So then, in order to cover that up, I decided that I'm going to do an inside mat of Tempting Turquoise, which is 5 1/4 by 4, and then I cut an extra piece of Whisper White cardstock at an 1/8 inch smaller, and I stamped my sentiment on that. So you can see me, this is the new piece of Whisper White cardstock, and this time I'm doing it on a mat. And the inside sentiment says, "You look way better at this age than I thought you would," which I think is a really cute sentiment. So I stamped the sentiments on both the front and the back in Tempting Turquoise, but I decided to stamp the balloon in Daffodil Delight to bring in that bright yellow color from the front of the card. And now I'm just simply gluing the inside panel to the Tempting Turquoise mat, which is going to go on the inside of the card and cover up the mistake I made when I stamped it the first time. So you could see me doing that right now. So I'm sure all of you mess up sometimes, and this is how I fixed it when I mess up on the inside part of the card, because it would suck to have to redo the entire card because I did a poor job stamping. If I had used a stamp positioner or a MISTI or something like that, then maybe I could have fixed it without even having to make this panel, but this is an easy enough fix in and of itself. So now now that I have that done, I'm going to go back to the front of the card, and I'm just gluing my Tempting Turquoise Designer Series paper to its cardstock mat together, and then I'm going to add glue and glue it to the front of the card. So I like to use liquid glue when I'm lining up these kind of small layers because it gives me time to wiggle the layers so that I can try to get them as straight as possible. And now I'm adding more liquid glue to add it to the front of the card. And as I'm sure you are aware that sometimes when you stamp or cut these cards, you might make them be a little off. And here my pieces were just a little too long, so I'm just using some craft scissors to cut off the little part that overhang. It was probably maybe a 16th of an inch or something, but still I didn't want it overhanging, so I cut it off. And now I am going to glue the circle, which I decided I wanted the flowers to show through the cutout, so I'm gluing that down first. And then I'm going to add dimensionals to the back of the solid piece of cardstock, the Daffodil Delight. And I'm running out of this pack of Stampin' Dimensionals, so I'm just cutting up the edges and using those. You know, no reason to waste any of that kind of stuff, right? Might as well get my complete money's worth, right? So I cut up the backs and I put a bunch of dimensionals. You probably don't need to use this many, but you know, since I was just using little pieces from the sides of the dimensional tray, I put a bunch on it. I also, you know, plan to mail almost all of my cards that I make, so I like to make sure that they're sturdy. They're not going to crush when they go through the mail. So I tend to put a few more dimensionals on it than a lot of people would, but it certainly doesn't hurt anything. And once I have those on, I can just line it up so that it's on the front. And I decided to do it at a slight little angle so it wasn't perfectly straight up and down, but that's a personal choice. So now I have my sentiment, which is just a half-inch strip that says Age Awareness Day, and I'm using the washi tape punch in order to give it a decorative edge on the right side of the sentiment. And I'm just guessing about where I want it. And I wasn't sure how long I wanted the left side or what I was going to do with the left side exactly, but I decided that it was a little too long, so I cut it down a little. And then I decided I'm going to cover up that rough edge with a bow. Now you could I'm using crushed curry baker's twine because Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell Daffodil Delight, but I find it to be close enough in color that you can't really tell on this baker's twine. I'm using a bow maker to make this bow. I decided to do it 3 times around and then tie the bow because I'm really bad at making bows by hand. And if you're going to do more than just a simple one loop bow, then the bow maker makes everything so much easier. This bow maker was $20. I got it at a local craft store, but you can get it online as well, I'm sure. I would just warn you that if you decide to buy a bow maker, I first purchased the 10-second bow maker, which is advertised everywhere and it's really cheap. It's like $10 or something like that. But the pegs in it were so wobbly, I couldn't use it at all because I couldn't tie a knot when all the pegs were flying out of the holder, so it defeated its purpose. So anyways, that was the end of the card. I just used a glue dot to attach the bow, and it's finished. I hope you enjoy this card. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. You can look at the supply list in the description, and you can also click on the link to get to the blog and get a detailed view of all of the supplies I used, as well as you can click on the image in order to join me in this fun color challenge. Thank you. Have a nice day.